All right. Thanks. That's just fun. Thanks for having me. Got to catch my breath here. It's up at 5 today, starting in Washington. So it's good to be back. I hadn't been here in about, well, I guess we figured out it was about 5 years, because you asked me if my son was still at Valley Forge, and now he graduated already, so I guess it has been 5 years. So worked on the, whatever the name of the studio is in the other building, yeah. And that was when we first met. So it's fun to be back. So we got a few hours together. What are we going to do? Here's what we're not going to do. What we're not going to do is have a crash course on acoustics or a crash course on studio designing, because you can't do that in 2 hours. If we could do that in 2 hours, then the 43 years, not 40 years, would be absurd. And I'm still practicing. I work 40 or 50 hours a week. I don't have to work anymore, but I like doing this. So we're still practicing at it, and we still enjoy it. So that's not what we're going to do in 2 years. So think of this more as a tour. We'll just have some fun with this subject. This is one of my 3 favorite subjects. Growing up, all I wanted to do was be an architect and a musician and play baseball. I got 2 out of 3. Didn't do too well with the baseball. That's a funny subject here, I guess, right? Because I'm from New York. I guess that's a little bit of a sore subject, right? The baseball situation, but at least we got 6 games, so that was fun. Luckily, my life has allowed me to marry these 2 loves of mine, and still be able to make a living doing it, and enjoy it and learn from it. So that's a big fancy word for recording studio design and acoustics. So how do I want to attack this? I kind of have given this some thought. Actually, I gave this a lot of thought when Ryan invited me down here, because I actually teach a course, but it takes about 40 hours. I teach at Berkeley. And from time to time, we kind of have some fun for a few hours together. So I figured maybe we'd start with a little history, and in particular one history subject, the first studio that I did, and see what that meant actually, not so much to me, but to our industry. Then maybe take a look at where I think studio design is now. Basically, a lot of pictures, a lot of cool studios, maybe some stuff you haven't seen. In fact, quite a bit of stuff you haven't seen. So a little bit of acoustics, a little bit of architecture. I've come prepared with 20 minutes of acoustics, because I always get nervous talking and not having some kind of math, but we could skip over that if it looked like we were more interested in not looking at math. The language of acoustics is physics. The language of physics is math. So if you want to start talking about acoustics, you need to get a little bit of that. And we could do that if we want, and I'm prepared to do that. But we could skip that if we wanted, and we could go into maybe some future-looking things. I have some demonstrations on auralization. Auralization is the ability to listen to rooms from a drawing. It's pretty cool, actually. And I have some demonstrations for that. It's actually what you were seeing me fool around there with, and that might be a lot of fun. And then maybe some predictions about where I think studios might end up, a little bit of close our eyes and some dreaming. So that's kind of where I think we might go and share this together for the evening. It's a pretty big group, a little bigger than I'm used to chatting with, but we're not that big. And it's not like I'm going to talk for 2.5 hours and then you have any questions. That's ridiculous. If you have a question, you should just yell it out. I'm not working with a microphone. And if you have a question at the moment, just yell it out and ask it, and that will be fun. And maybe that'll just change what we do tonight. Most questions I've heard before, but every now and then there's a question I haven't heard, and actually that's the fee. That's my fee for the night, is to try to get one question that I haven't heard before. So how are we going to start? Okay, let's take a perspective. Acoustics has been around a long time. I don't think that's a big push to figure that out. I've actually been to this space, and it has amazing acoustics. And one wonders whether it was an accident or whether it was science. People are not really sure. There's been an awful lot of theory about why you can drop literally a coin on that stage and hear it about 100 meters in the back row. And I did that with my brother about 40 or 50 years ago when I first visited this. It's extraordinary. It probably has to do with resonance inside the seats. I don't know if anybody knew what they were doing, whether it was an accident, But acoustics and the study of it, not so much the study of it, but the awareness of it has been around a long time. But I will suggest for your consideration that the kind of acoustics that we're interested in hasn't really been around for a long time. The seminal work, and I think really where the paradigm shift really takes place about 100 years ago. Now that's nothing in the scheme of things, okay? And most of this, it started, I believe, with Wallace Sabine in Boston, okay? And it's his name that we get the Sabine. Sabine is a unit of absorption. Some of you should know that by now. And he's really the first person who just day after day, week after week, basically with gunshots and balloons bursting, measured decay time, reverberation time, decay time in environments, and tried to get a relationship between that unique signature of a room. He did it in some larger rooms than this, Fog Hall and another room in the Boston area, and the relationship between that decay time, that acoustic signature, or that piece of an acoustic signature, basically an impulse response, which is what he was getting, and the physical nature of the room. And he put together some algorithms. He's the first one that intuitively suggested that there are relationships with it. And from that, we have a very famous equation. Actually, we have a few equations, which we still even use today. If we have some time, we'll take a look at that. What's interesting here is the date, at least for the moment, okay? And it's interesting. This is happening, and at the same time, this kind of stuff is happening. We got a few pictures of, early recording devices, and these were pretty primitive. So here's the science of acoustics in spaces, all of a sudden people starting to look at, and here's this technology that's just all of a sudden pushing up, Bell, et cetera, and they're going to rise, and they're going to just keep talking to each other over more or less only the last 100 years. It's not that long ago. And as the delivery system got better, the recording system got better, I think our knowledge of acoustics needed to get better. And as that got better, back to the delivery system. And these two things just keep pacing with each other. But they basically were done by scientists and engineers. They weren't really done by musicians and artists. Sabine was an engineer. Graham Bell was an engineer, okay, although he had a passionate interest in music, okay? So flash forward a little bit now to a date that is not a date that any of you are alive in, I don't think, but I'm alive in 1953, so this is actually pretty current, basically multitrack recording, World War II invention, stole it from the Germans, okay? Les Paul, of course, we just lost him, a few months ago, and so we have to remember him. And now things are really starting to get very, very interesting, okay?